Or if I say maybe in special education, you may be interested in compare the stress level between boys and girls in IB programs. And do you have any example you can think of in your area, like when you can use the independence test that will compare the two groups? I hope that some students will have some like scenarios of like exposure, like they would okay think of in the real scenario like what they can do, and then we can go through that. And then now is the first activity for the class, because before we go to further in the t-test, I would like to walk you through some like example how we apply the independent mean test, how to calculate the t-statistic based on the an example. So the research in scenario in these activities, we will have in this scenario, a researcher is interested in like the researcher developed a new teaching method using an iPad app to teach math, and he or she was wondering if the new method is more effective or if different in terms of effectiveness to the traditional teaching method, just like giving the lectures. So at the beginning of the semester, the researcher, like they call it this, 10 students were randomly assigned in two groups. 5 students were assigned to the we call control group, which is a traditional teaching method, and then 5 other students were assigned to the experimental group, which is the the group using iPad app. And please be noted, like before easy calculation for illustration purpose in the class, we just have 10 participants. But in the real way, the practice, you should have much more larger students, right? So it's just example like to have easy calculation for the class. And at the end of the semester, the teachers administer a test, a math test, and then record the score from these 10 students. So before you do any analysis, I recommend you to go through these questions to screen the data, and then to ask what is your research question, to determine what is your dependent variable, what is your independent variable, and is it continuous or categorical, so to make sure like the t-test is used appropriately, because as we mentioned earlier, right, we need the dependent variables to be continuous, and then the independent variable would be the binary, which is 2 groups, right? So now please work with our neighbors, and then we will go through. I will spend like around 5-10 minutes to go through this, and then talk about like what is in the example we did before. What is the research question? What is dependent variable? And also, I also would strongly recommend you to also look at your data. The data in this example just have 10 students, which is manageable, small. But in the practice, when you collect data, I would recommend you to look at the data to see if any unusual things, because sometimes you may have typo, or sometimes as a teacher, you know the student. You have to give the student why this test he or she doing so poorly. You will check the test and see, oh, what's going on, right? And then, so that I think that's the habits that I would like to encourage you to do, like to screen the data, to know the data, what tells you know the data, and also like to recommend you to check the assumption of the test, which we should do when we do statistical tests, and then we will go through this next class. But I just would like to mention for you this one of the steps we would do before we do any further to analyze our data that we collected. So in the real class, I would maybe give students 5-10 minutes to work on this, and then we'll go through each research. So from the last part, and then now we will discuss, okay, so what is the research question from the previous, the scenario, right? So now, is the research question would be, is any different? Is the technique a teaching method for secretors between the traditional and the innovative method? And also the dependent variable here is a secret of the math score we collected, right? And the independent variable would be the teaching method with 2 values, either traditional or the innovative teaching. And we screen the data and make the assumptions. And then next step is the connection with what we have learned last week. Now we need to set up the null hypothesis. Now it's all clear, with the null hypothesis. Now, when we have the mean of the 2 groups are equal, or in another word, the difference between the mean is equal to 0, right? So we have 2 I mean, say null hypothesis, because we need to set up the null hypothesis and we test the null hypothesis.